Hello, everybody. Welcome into a Friday edition of the Computer America Show. Actually, it's a pre-show, behind the scenes. We got a terrific program planned for you tonight. Both hours. Nathan Evans, managing editor for Popzara, is going to be here because it's Friday. We always have a lot of fun with him. We're going to talk technology. We're going to talk movies. We're just going to talk about all over the road, really, and certainly going to be a fun show. And, of course, it is Friday. That means we're going to have our social media winner of the week coming up as well. Someone's going to win that really nice Logitech mouse, the MX2, and the MX Anywhere 2 wireless mouse. So valued at $80. So sit back, relax as we enjoy
1 minute until showtime.
2 hours of Computer America. Nate, you want to go on mute for a bit and then come in when we start talking? It's up to you. There, thank you.
Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live, it's America's longest-running national radio talk show on computers, Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. Look for Craig's weekly column in your favorite newspaper. This show is being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. Keep it here for technology news, computer products, guest interviews, and your phone calls. You're listening to Computer America.
The Computer America Show is brought to you by Bell Ringers. It's newer than news when you're right there as it first debuts. Visit our sponsor's website at bellringersmedia.com. Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. It's the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. Computer America is heard around the world and coast to coast. And I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And it's Friday!
That magical time of the year.
Yes, it is.
That magical time of week.
Yes, it is. Well, there could only be one Friday in the year, but it would be really boring. No, it is Friday, and we complete another week of broadcasting excellence, and have placed it in some secure spot in the United States somewhere. We won't tell you where, but it's there. And, of course, that means, since it's Friday, we have our social media winner of the week. Going to be talking about. We're going to be giving away that really nice prize, that Logitech MX Anywhere 2 wireless mouse valued at $80. Okay, so some lucky person's going to win that. We'll probably do that in the second hour. Now, we make it really simple. If you have a comment or a question about anything we're talking about tonight, really it's an open mic night because we're going to be all over the road. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a call, 347-884-8881. That's 347-884-8881. I'll get you on and get you through. But if you're radio shy and you don't like to go on the air, but you still have a comment or question, you just go to ComputerAmerica.com, and in the upper right-hand corner of every single page that we have there, virtually every page, it'll say Submit a Question. Just click that, and you'll take you to our question submission page. It'll ask for your name. You can put your email address in there. It'll ask you maybe for the name of the person you want to ask the question. It could be for me, for Ben, it could be for our guest, Nathan. And then ask the question, click the submit button, and we'll all see the question, then we can ask it. So that way you don't have to go on the air. It's just that simple. The other thing that I want to call your attention to is our show lounge. It's more than just a lounge. When you go in there, actually it starts up our live video stream. That's right, because we're a radio talk show, but now you can watch the Computer America Show. We might have a lot to watch here tonight. You can see myself, you can see Ben, you can see our guest, and Ben has that wonderful technology where he can display websites, videos, movies, whatever he wants to display, and you can see that as well. So that's all for your just to enrich your listening experience here on Computer America. So that's pretty much it. I'm just to bring Nathan on, and Nathan, actually, he's Popzara magazine. Popzara. The word Popzara is defined as being a bazaar of popular culture spanning the worlds of arts and entertainment. Now, if you go to the website, you're going to see views on video gaming, movies, technology, cultural movements, even politics. And there are opinion pieces and all kinds of things on there that you will find of interest. And the managing editor for Popzara is Nathan Evans. He's back with us tonight. Hey, Nate, welcome back into Computer America. How are you?
Hey, Craig. Hey, Ben. Good to be back on this last Friday of the year, apparently.
These things happen. You just run out of Fridays too early, and you just have to block them all out.
Yeah. I would say it's a very good Friday, but there is only one of those every year, so we will make the best of what we have.
It could be a great Friday.
Great Friday.
Yeah, great Friday.
When I start my new religion, I'll make this the Great Friday. I'll make Saint Ben and Saint Chris.
I didn't have you pegged as starting a new religion.
Other people would very much disagree with you.
Okay.
Yeah, as I like to say, I'm a legend in my own mind.
Okay.
No, but it's good to be back. Good to be back. Thanks for letting me back on the show. I'm glad my probation's done.
Yeah, exactly. We saw the probation officer, and they said that you were okay to go, but you had to bring your chip with you. So we have so many things to talk about tonight, and that's what we do. But again, anything we're talking about or something that you want to bring up or discuss with Nathan, you certainly can. But I want to kind of start off everything because I know it's getting to be where it's being overdone. But when we have correspondents such as yourself, and Windows 10 is now officially quote unquote released, I want to get your opinion on this operating system, Windows 10. So far, everybody we brought on said they love it, and then there's always a little bit of a but maybe, or things. But so, why don't you give us your view of Windows 10?
Okay, well, I'm going to start off by saying something that you may find a little strange. There's a story that came out about Windows 10 this week that if you're looking to get DVD playback re-enabled in Windows 10, that you'd have to purchase a $15 app.
Yep.
And what's interesting about this is that the vast majority of people who have Windows 10 that have used it professionally don't have DVD players. And I think this signifies sort of the state of conversation about Windows 10, is that at this point people are looking for reasons to complain. They are looking, and for those of you that play games, and Ben, you'll get what I'm going to say with this. The original Xbox, when it came out, didn't have DVD playback built in. You had to purchase a $30 controller and a dongle that came with it, because believe it or not, folks, DVD playback costs money. It's a licensing fee that is paid to by the vendor. So, and as one person said, it's now fascinating that DVD playback on your new operating system costs more than your operating system did. Now, going back from that little aside, I will tell you this, as anybody who's listened to this show for the past year or so, I am a big advocate of Windows 10. I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's a great operating system. I think it's a great start. I do think there are some problems and some issues to be had with the privacy settings, but you could say that about Chromebook. You could say that about Apple. You could say that about a lot of companies. They siphon away your privacy under the guise of using it to determine feature sets and features to fix and all this. But in reality, it's about selling your privacy. And this is the acceptance you pick when you go into it. You shouldn't be too concerned about it, to be honest with you. I haven't heard any rumors or I haven't seen any evidence that Microsoft is going to target you with ladies' underwear because you happen to look at a Sears catalog online. Although for some reason I seem to get a lot of men's underwear on my feed. So, but going forward, it's a nice operating system upgrade. It's a substantial upgrade in certain ways. In some ways it might be a downgrade depending on where you're coming from. But generally speaking, it's a free upgrade. The upgrade rollout has been relatively smooth and almost perfect for certain people. My own anecdotes, if I could say, people have come to me and said, oh Nathan, please help me upgrade. Only you can save me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I know that's the price we pay for being ourselves. But no, I found that it was remarkably easy. And I will give you this anecdote. From a personal perspective, there were certain people's computers that I helped upgrade over the past week, and I won't say who, but I will say none of them were involved in Popzara, that were upgraded from bootleg copies of Windows 7 and Windows 8. And
Really?
miraculously, the upgrades went perfect.
Mhm.
One moment they had bootleg copies of Windows 7. The next they had completely legal activated copies of Windows 10. So I think a lot of the chatter that precipitated the release of Windows 10 was unfounded. I think Microsoft gave up. They're just glad people have Windows 10 at this point. They want to keep you they want to keep you. And if there's one thing we've been taught about this generation is that those who cry the loudest and raise the most hell will get what they want. They may not deserve it. They may not have earned it, but they'll get it because they want to shut you up. So congratulations, bootleggers. You justified your theft for years. You have free Windows 10. Enjoy.
I will say though that this might have a little bit to do with what you're talking about with the privacy thing, where they are monitoring almost everything you do on the Bing, on Bing, on your desktop, on everything. They're monitoring, how you're using it, where you're clicking, how you're navigating. They're checking all that, and they say it's for, so that they can improve their operating system. It's like, oh, people are using this feature, they're not using this feature, they're working around this feature, and some of that may be true, but they're also gaining diagnostics from all these different computers. And yes, there are ways to go in and turn off these settings so that they are no longer, tracking you and feeding your information into the beast. But I think at the same time they're taking that, and yes, they're using some of it. But I'm not going to put past Microsoft to, try to clean it a little bit. Take off everyone's names and sell that data and kind of use it as a platform, saying, hey, we have this many users, they use this kind of equipment, come to Microsoft if you want to license anything, here's our, like, they're going to sell that data. So I think at the end of the day, even though if you aren't paying for your upgrade, in the long run you probably will be.
Of course you are, yes, because people forget that your time and people have forgotten. In some cases, they've never known this before, right? It's hard to forget something you've never had or never known. But your privacy is valuable. Your identity has value, and it used to be in the days before the internet, ladies and gentlemen, that advertising companies would spend billions of dollars all in the effort to capture your eyeballs for 1 second, whether it be on television or radio, such as this, or advertising outside. You were valuable. You were valued, and they spent a lot of money in determining exactly what combination of whatever would attract you. And now they don't. They just sort of cast a wide net. And I don't want to disparage Microsoft too greatly, because I want to state Windows 10 is a great upgrade. I wholeheartedly recommend it if your machine passes the muster. I recommend it. It's a great upgrade. It's necessary. However, I do want to go back to something you said just a moment ago. In 2012, when Windows 8 was released, was it 2012? I remember I purchased a few licenses for Windows 8 for myself and for some of the Popzara guys, and I said it's $15. They were having a sale. Fantastic. And as someone who's dabbled in the world of bootlegs before, I won't deny it. I wanted to have a legitimate copy of Windows going forward for a lot of people, so I reached out and I purchased it. Now, Craig, you wanted me to talk about Macintosh at some point. I do want to bring up the El Capitan, which is the new upcoming Macintosh operating system to replace Yosemite. I am part of the beta program, and I installed El Capitan. And one of the things that El Capitan beta did to me was erase my Windows partition. It disabled Parallels, which I used for that.
Oh, wait a minute. I understand that El Capitan doesn't boot. Actually, not the. I think it was since Yosemite, you can't have boot camp. Where you direct.
Oh, it wasn't boot camp though. It was actually what happens is the El Capitan beta disables certain USBs, disables certain privileged accesses to the hard drive, and they're in effect What's that?
I'm saying what is. I talked to Parallels about this, and I said, "Hey, are you gonna be working with Windows 10?" And they said you need to update it to the latest version, and even when you do that, you have to close the Windows. If you've been saving it or you've been suspending it, you have to literally exit and shut it down, and then start over brand new.
Yeah, they're wrong. They're wrong. Their information is based on getting you to buy a version. It still won't work with El Capitan, and the reason has to do with permissions. And the same problem plagued Yosemite, as it turns out. I did some research. So what happened is Apple has not enabled encrypted disk access to third-party applications because the hard drive partition under the El Capitan beta is encrypted.
Mm-hmm.
And so the only solution is Apple has to release that. To this day, Parallels 9 and 10 will not work.
Really?
With El Capitan. And so if you do get it working at all, USB support is disabled. And it should be fixed in a future upgrade. But the point of my story is that my lovely Windows 10 beta and my Windows 8 machine were gone. And so what I did is I downgraded back to Yosemite via USB stick. Pretty easy process. And I reinstalled Parallels, no problem. However, Windows 8, for those who don't know, Microsoft, in 2012, Microsoft was very different than it is today in 2015. 3 years is an eternity, and what a difference a Balmer can make. I'll tell you that. Microsoft in 2012 was arrogant. They were arrogant. They had not yet released their Xbox One console, had not even released plans of it. Windows 8 was supposed to be the system that made people, forced them onto touchscreen screens, hence the removal of the Start button. And if you remember, and I don't know, Ben, if you had Windows 8 when it came out, they announced that Windows 8 licenses would not be transferable between platforms. Once you had a Windows 8 license, it was embedded onto the BIOS, so they said. BIOS was even disabled in certain OEMs like Toshiba completely. You couldn't even boot into the BIOS. You were stuck with Windows 8. They tried to Macintoshize your computer with Windows. That's why they stopped putting the serial number label on the box. It wasn't on the side of the machine anymore. You couldn't even extract it. Now, you still could. There are still ways to do it. It involved calling Microsoft and doing manual checks, but there was no easy way to get your own license. You were stuck with it. And this was done to encourage OEMs to continue supporting Microsoft and hence paying the licensing fee. It didn't work. It was a disaster from all spectrums. One, the licensing. Two, Metro. Let's just come out and say it. Metro. The lack of the Start button. People kept Windows 7. Now, I happen to like Windows 8, or should I say 8.1, but Microsoft messed up. They were arrogant, and it was in this train of thought, people, that Microsoft created the Xbox One. And Ben, we've talked about this on the show, and you remember all the heinous things Microsoft was planning for the Xbox One originally. It was very anti-consumer. You couldn't transfer games, you couldn't rent games, you couldn't let people borrow stuff, you couldn't do anything. And it wasn't until Outrage came out that Microsoft rescinded these horrid practices, and they did with Windows 8. Now remember, Windows 10 was originally supposed to be a Windows 8.1 update, supposed to be Windows 8.2. That was canceled, and they skipped a generation, and they went right to Windows 10, and they gave it away for free. It's the mea culpa that they've decided that they say, we're sorry. Here you go. Please, on hands and knees, don't leave us. Stop buying Chromebooks and stick with Windows. You know, and now we've seen Windows laptops under the $200 price. We've seen a free Windows 10 upgrade. We've seen massive upgrades that are very pro-consumer on the Xbox One. Microsoft 2012 is a great progressive company. Microsoft 2012 was a rancid relic. So, people, if you have a Microsoft console, Microsoft platform now, be very thankful. It's a good company again.
Yeah, do you know if they had any kind of big shakeup? Like, did they get a new
Oh, they got a new
CEO
president.
or-
Oh, yes, Nadella. He replaced Ballmer. Now, I give Ballmer credit for being fun and entertaining, and he's probably really cool at parties. But the guy is insane, and the guy needed to go. This is a man who was, and I'm not going to make fun of him as a human being because we all have our foibles, but his business decisions, and a lot of people misunderstand. They say under Ballmer, Microsoft made more profit than ever. Now, the president of Apple, the CEO of Apple after Steve Jobs, I forget what was his name. It was Scully.
Oh yeah.
Now there is notes that under Scully, Apple actually made more money than he did before Jobs. That's only half the story. And the same thing could be paralleled with Ballmer. Yes, they did improve revenue under both presidents, but it came at the expense of burning down the company's resources. That's like saying, hey, we have enough heat for the winter. All we have to do is cut out this wall.
Mm.
And under Ballmer, Microsoft lost its market share, lost its superiority, lost the lead, lost everything, completely discombobulated the mobile market. Consumers lost face. The word Windows became shameful to some extent, to the fact they had to remove the Microsoft name off products. Yes, it was a disaster. Nadella has reinvigorated the company. I'm not going to give him all credit because he was also responsible for some bad naming, but under his stewardship, regardless if he's responsible for it or not, the company has reinvigorated itself. This is exciting to watch Microsoft again. It's the first time in 10 years they've been fun to watch. And I applaud them. I think they're doing great progressive things, and I would love to see where they take it. I really do. I'm very supportive of them right now. They do good things for consumers, and therefore they have my support.
That's what we're hearing
It's
from
not
a lot of our
hard.
correspondents. Yeah, that's what we're hearing from a lot of other correspondents, and that's what we're hearing from a lot of our guests. That it's, hey, no company is too far from being redeemed, and Microsoft, they're doing a lot of things right.
It's a sign of a good company to have someone up on that flagpole, right, pointing to the icebergs and saying, veer left, veer right, not straightforward tally-ho. That is the mark of a good company, to pivot, learn from their mistakes, course correct, and move forward in a progressive line that satisfies not only the shareholders of their company, but also satisfies the users that have come to depend on them. And Microsoft controls a good portion of this world's computers, a really good portion of at least the personal computers. And those people deserve to have a workable operating system that won't bug out, won't fit, and won't necessarily destroy their privacy. And I think with Windows 10, they've come up with a really good solution. And the reason I bring up the DVD software faux pas, Greg, is because I feel the same way. I feel that it's unnecessary saber rattling, the same way that people are talking about privacy. It's no different than your Google browser. It's no different than Microsoft. Those things are loaded with spyware. Your Chrome browser, if you're on Chrome, nothing you do is private. Nothing.
Yep.
Nothing. No keystroke, nothing. It's all logged, every piece of it. Every piece of it. And this is a company, and I want to be clear about this. This is very important to note about Google. I love Google, but Google is optioning to create an operating system, Chrome OS, that's separate from their other operating system, Android, that they want to actively replace Windows. They want to replace Office with Google. Now, don't get me wrong. I use Chrome. I use Google Docs. I will, but I use them with the knowledge of what this company is doing with my property. I have thought for years that Google Plus was worthless. I think it is a worthless imitative program that has no function for anybody aside from hardcore Android nerds who want to discuss hacks and ROMs. And Google insisted on forcing it on you. They forced it on you in your email. They forced it on you in YouTube. They forced it on photos. And now, like Google always does, whoops, guys, we're sorry. Now we're going to strip it out of all these programs we forced it on you. That is the instability of a company. That is not what Microsoft's doing. What Microsoft is doing is satisfying 700 million to a billion people, and they're doing it relatively well. And like you said, Ben, if they needed some diagnostic information, let them have it. The product's good, but don't be erratic. I mean, it's like letting someone with bipolar, guide the Titanic. I'm sorry, no, don't do that. Learn from your mistakes. So that's my review of Windows 10. A definite Windows 10 gets a definite 9 from me if we're doing numbers. If we're doing numbers.
Now, just a quick back with the DVD. And we reported on this last night. We actually did it a couple of times. People getting bent out of shape because Windows Media is no longer available on Windows 10.
Windows Media Player.
Download VLC. It's free.
Yeah. And we also download VLC. It's free, and we and all that because there's a version for Windows, a version for Mac, even Linux. It's there. But what I'm saying is, I understand what Microsoft is doing. I mean, quite frankly, I think DVDs are pretty much way on the way out. I mean, it's like the floppy disk. You don't really need it anymore. I mean, with streaming and you want to see movies, you can get them online. You can see
Like, it seems like the only time people use DVDs is when their OS crashes and they're like, okay, I need to reboot, and they don't know how to access their hidden partition.
Remember one thing, though, guys. They're not talking about DVD access software. They're talking about DVD playback software as the codec is involved with films. So you can't watch The Terminator on your Windows 10 machine anymore without getting software. The fact is that, Craig, you're partly right that they are going the way of the dodo. Yeah. But on the other hand, Microsoft sold this idea to you. They sold this idea of DVD. Now, I don't know if you remember what happened back in 2006. When Microsoft was battling Sony with the PlayStation 3, they made a bet. They made a hedged bet on Toshiba's HD DVD. HD DVD software.
It was the competing one, yeah.
It was the competing one, and they sold people, and they promised you it's going to be, and I think it finally did go into some HPs, but this was going to be the solution to DVD, the successor, blah blah blah. It had zero support in the thing, and Sony's victory with Blu-ray was sort of Pyrrhic because, yes, they won the format war, but they didn't really win because Blu-rays never really took over from where DVDs left off. It was sort of a hollow victory. What really was the successor to DVDs, more or less, was the streaming services. Mm-hmm. Those became wildly successful. Blu-ray sales have never been what DVD sales have been, and they never will be. And now they're talking about 4K already, which is going to be the final nail on the head, I think, for these things, because nobody wants it. Don't get me wrong, 4K looks lovely and everything, but there's no need for it. There's no need for it, and there's no public demand for it. What public wants is faster streaming services. They want faster, more thing. You're not going to tell somebody that just spent the last 10 years collecting every damn version of Lord of the Rings, collected, disc collected, mostly collected, super collector's edition, that they got to buy all that crap all over again. That's like 100,000 DVDs. On 4K so they can see Bilbo in higher resolution? Nobody wants to see Bilbo in higher resolution. It's gross. It's disgusting. You want to see those orcs, those slimy orcs? No. So it's the format war all over again. We're in the middle of another format transition, but this is VHS replacing, well, I guess VHS was the originator, VHS beta, DVD, DVD, what was there a competing format at the time? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Between DVD?
I would say not in 1998. I would say Blu-ray. DVD was the logical progression from VHS. I think a comparison would be CD versus Super Audio CD versus HD DVD CD. I can't pronounce it. There was another digital format, DVD audio, excuse me. CD audio, which is PCM audio, versus Super Audio CD versus DVD audio. DVD audio and Super Audio CD were vastly superior to CD. Didn't catch on because to listen to them required a humongous initial purchase and the lack of transparency. You had to sit in the room and listen to the speakers at a certain angle. What was the successor to CD? MP3s. And I think we've seen the successor to DVD in digital audio. And so if people are whining and crying about $15 codec, no offense, you know what you are. You're a bootlegger. Go bootleg the damn thing and shut up. But don't complain about everything on Windows 10 that you can't get for free. You don't use it anyway. Stop complaining about things you don't use. That's what I say to these people because they're crybabies and they never get called on it.
So are there any? Are there not parallels? I mean, when I first saw, the Macs coming out, and I think it was the iMacs, and they left off the floppy drive, and people say, well, what's going on now? They had this new thing called CDs, and that's it. They abandoned the floppy disk because it was so local, and that was very successful. It was not a problem. Now, when you buy a Mac now, there are no more DVDs built in anymore. You can buy a super drive which attaches to the Thunderbolt or something, but that's it. There's no optical media anymore in the Apple products.
Yes, Apple can do that because Apple controls the flow, and there's very few configurations. You bring up a good point about this because I wanna go back to the floppy disk for a second because the floppy disk experienced its own erratic growth. You remember zip drives?
Sure. Yeah.
Zip drives could hold 100 megs, whole 100 megs.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. But it was much superior. But you needed to buy an extra drive, and of course, don't forget if you're a Mac guy, you probably remember SCSI.
Yeah, of
You remember
course.
all the SCSI interfaces, and they were fantastic. They were one of those things, if you were a Mac fan, you could be like, yeah, look at me, look what I can do. Screw you, Windows.
Yeah.
But the fact is that when Apple made the choice to nix the floppy drive, there was a successor, and the successor was USB sticks.
Yeah.
Superior in every single way, to the point that USB sticks are better than floppy disks ever were, and they were more affordable. They were much more affordable. They were much more flexible. So what Apple did is what Apple does best, is that they forced the industry forward by not capitulating to a bunch of whiny nerds that frankly don't use the technology anyway, and they moved things forward. And they did move things forward again by ixnaying the DVD disc. And do some anecdotal evidence. Ask people, when's the last time you actually used DVD software?
Exactly. I mean,
They won't tell. They can't answer you. But I will say the nerds have a point, because nerds are like broken clocks. They're right twice a day, and this is the time they're right is when Apple went too far with the new MacBook, just the MacBook, the one that came out this year, by removing ports in an effort to sort of push forward this USB Type-C configuration, which is a port that does everything, and like any first generation product that does everything, it does nothing well. And it's a mistake on Apple's part, and a mistake that Google quickly jumped on by adding multiple Type-C ports on their Chromebooks. Yeah, so Apple kind of messed this one up, and so I do think we're in a port-free universe future, Craig, with everything's going to be wireless, but we're not there yet.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, we got a little break coming up, and Nathan Evans, managing editor of Popzara magazine, continues on with us. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. A News to School review from Marty Winson coming up as well. You're listening to the Computer America Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Sometimes, disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Sometimes, disaster strikes. Data can be lost due to many different reasons. Accidental reformatting, power spikes, virus attacks. Zero Assumption Recovery provides a suite of highly effective and thorough data recovery software for Windows operating systems. ZA is suitable for home users and small businesses who need a powerful data recovery solution for Windows and Linux file systems.
Go to z-a-recovery.com.
Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. I want to tell you something about VTech. They always have the coolest telephone systems around. VTech's new 4-line small business phone system, the perfect solution for small business owners that need to install a phone system that has qualities and features that have previously only been available for companies with bigger budgets. First of all, this new system is the most affordable and easy to install 4-line phone system on the market. Its components allow the system to grow alongside a business up to 10 extensions that can be located anywhere. The 4-line small business phone system also comes equipped with a number of advanced features such as auto attendant for each line, a digital answering machine with mailboxes for every extension, full duplex speakerphones, music on hold, power failure operation, 6-way conferencing, and much, much more. The VTech 4-line small business phone system is available in stores and online at Office Depot, Office Max, and Staples, as well as online at www.vtechphones.com. Tell them I sent you.
You made it through security okay? Marty Winston with the News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America. This time, the Rack Solutions Vented Rack Shelf. We asked Rack Solutions to send 2 of their 7-inch vented rack shelves, a popular configuration for 2-post relay racks that we intend for a net connection rack. In surveying the gear we wanted to include in that rack, a lot of pieces were built more for a desktop stack, an inevitably wobbly, teeter-tottery, precarious pile, and our reason for populating a rack. For most rack gear, things like network switches or power backups or power distribution products, Ears on the side of that gear have holes that let you screw them right into the upright rails to hold them in position. Non-rack gear, like home control hubs and smaller network pieces and other things designed for the desktop, well, they're built without ears. A vented rack shelf can fit several such little boxes. The venting encourages airflow to help vent heat and can make tie-downs easier, or you can use a strip of Velcro underneath. Bottom line, Rack Solutions 7-inch vented rack shelves help convert a wobbly stack to an organized rack. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
Welcome back to the Computer America Show. 33 minutes past the hour. Nate Evans is here with us both hours tonight, and we're talking, I believe we were just talking about DVD players and
Right, yes, exactly.
something about Apple.
Yeah,
For some odd reason, because Windows 10, it's all everyone wants to talk about, but we're talking about Apple for some reason.
Well, because it seems that there's so many things that are similar. I mean, the patterns that go on, and that's one of the things I was trying to point out with Nathan, that Apple seems to, when they don't hold on to legacy. And when the floppy disk was ready to go, they let it go. When the CDs were no longer,
didn't they have like a little plug-in device though that you could like plug into one of the ports and it could read floppy drives?
No, they had a USB
floppy
drive. You get a floppy drive.
So like they came out with like peripherals, but for most main systems they did away with it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons they got that beautiful on the iMacs where the edge is so thin now. The reason if you ever seen this, because they took out the optic.
They threw out the baby and the bathwater.
Yeah, exactly. So that and they figured if you want it, well, they sell a super drive, that you can, or you can buy now you can't buy a Blu-ray drive from Apple. You have to get that third party, but their super drive will read most of the other optical media formats. But because they said it's time for it to go, and they move on. They move it now. They don't.
It's easier for Apple though. Apple holds a commanding, like what 4%, 4 to 6%, whatever they had for breakfast that morning, and they hold a commanding 4 to 6%. Microsoft has about 90%, 92 on a good day.
But that command,
and it's harder to be as agile when you have that kind of market share.
Yeah, but
but you're missing something. Apple controls 100% of their own market. Microsoft controls about 2% of their market. Almost every Windows machine is not made by Microsoft. It's not hardware by Microsoft. 100% of Apple hardware, minus Hackintosh, is made by Apple. Apple has a control that is just unparalleled in this world. They've done this with they've done this with iOS devices as well. They've refused to give things that people say they want. You'll hear the nerds clamor, "Oh, we want replaceable battery. We want removable media," and people say we need this, and it's always docked as a negative. Especially Samsung. There's a general rule in the tech world, Ben. Whatever Apple doesn't have becomes a rallying cry for the competition. So if Apple doesn't have a 9-point megapixel camera, then Toshiba will advertise, "We got a 9-point megapixel camera." For years, when they didn't have removable media or removable battery, Samsung said, "We have those things." Well, guess what? When Samsung's market share dropped by 75% in 2014, which it did, by the way, the Galaxy S5 and the Note 4 were disasters, then guess what? The new Galaxy S6 has no removable media, no removable battery, because hey, it worked for Apple, right? And the new Galaxy tablets have ditched the 16.9 aspect ratio that the old ones touted, and they now have the same aspect ratio of the iPads, because what they have is only a selling point when they don't have it, and hence when that allows a company like Apple to lead the market, because that percentage they have is stronger than anyone else's, and if it sells and it works, then other companies will follow suit. But if that doesn't happen, then you're exactly right. Then who's going to change the system? Microsoft's not going to change it. They have no direct control over it. Although it's worth noting that their own hardware, the Surface, basically has the same functionality and the same upgradability as a Macintosh. No drives, no floppies, no nothing.
Well, and at that point, you're asking who is going to change the market. And it looks like Google is trying to step up to the plate with all their Chromebooks and all their fancy phones. So Apple and Google.
Well, Google has a disadvantage is that the company seems to be run by about 4 billion different people because they have this. Google has this irritating reputation for abandoning products that they create. They're very lackluster in adopting new products, and their interfaces change almost every day. Hold on, give it 5 minutes, your Gmail probably just changed. But the fact is that Google's been getting into the hardware business slowly but slowly. But what they did is when they got into the Chromebook business themselves and they created their own Chromebook, it was called the Pixel, and they decided, hey, let's copy Apple's price, but keep the functionality of a Chromebook, which is limited. So you had $1,400 Chromebook that looked beautiful, had a great screen, but it was still a Chromebook, which means it couldn't do anything, and so except look nice. So this is why when you go to the store and you look at those cheap $150 Chromebooks, you'll notice they look like MacBook Airs. They look like them. They don't function like them, and they certainly don't feel like them. But they look, from a distance, they look like them, and that's all that some people want. The looks.
They look like them. If you squint your eyes, you might be able to make out an Apple logo that's not really there. All that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's got most of the prestige. It's like people will paint their iPhone 6s gold to make it look like they have gold iPhones. And that's, to some people, it's all they care about. There is a contingent that people that just want the brand name. They don't care about the quality. And they do buy Apples just for the Apple brand name. That is absolutely true because it's got a great brand name. It's got an impeccable brand name. So that's, you got it, you flaunt it.
Yep.
Speaking of Apple and marketing, any feedback with the Apple Watch, how that's doing?
Depends on who you ask. This is interesting because
just don't ask Apple because they won't give you numbers.
They've said they've done a very Amazon thing where they've decided that they're not going to release actual numbers just yet. They're gonna sort of hide behind, well, it sold better than the original iPhone did when it came out. The fact is this. Apple has a very strange, disturbing relationship with the stock market. Apple is the only company on the stock market that can do better every year, year over year, and still disappoint the stock predictors. And so everyone is looking for the Apple Watch to be the decider. Apple had their earnings report a few was it last week? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And they did better than ever.
Last week.
Yeah, they did great. They did better than the year before, but their stock sunk 7%. Caused billions of dollars to be lost because they didn't reveal their Apple Watch thing. This is the part where we're sort of reaching critical mass. That when you have the fortunes of millions of people depending on just out of their butt predictions about what Apple should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. I want to be clear. Apple is selling more phones year over year. The only thing they're not selling more of are iPads. iPads seem to be on a perpetual slide, but that is directly related to the increase of iPhone 6 and 6 Pluses. The more phablets people have, the less tablets they have. That and the fact that people just don't buy tablets every year like they do phones. It's a very different market. So that sort of cannibalized that. But when they have this, Apple sells more phones every year. They sell more Macintoshes than ever, and yet they still don't meet artificial expectations. That's a bummer. That's very sad, and I wish they would stop that. But they have a point with the watch, because what's that?
The only thing I want to mention about their stock price dropping, and we did mention that I think they lost like $13 billion in like net market share.
Oh, they didn't lose anything. The investors did. That's the problem. It's sad because there is some talk of manipulation in the market, that the market is designed. Whereas a company like Microsoft loses billions of dollars, they lose billions in revenue, and their stock only drops 3%. Apple makes billions of dollars. Apple made more money in revenue than Microsoft did in the last 3 years, in a quarter.
Yeah.
It's absurd how much they make. They make money.
The thing that they were, I guess they look inside the crystal balls and they say, okay, in China, which is their next big battleground in terms of smartphones, Apple's not doing too well, and they were looking at this and that, and they gave a couple different reasons about things that are going to happen in the future, and that dramatically, changed the price that made them take the first nosedive within 7 years because of things that might happen in the future.
Well, to be fair, Apple's nosedived a few times over the last few years to the point where they had to split their stock a few times and sort
I
of
thought that was a
rejigger
good
it.
thing.
Of course, it was a good thing. I mean, we're in unparalleled territory. No company's ever been this type of successful before. It's unheard of. And so, as far as the Chinese thing, the fact is, Apple last year sold more cell phones in China than any company's ever sold in China ever, and that was an iPhone 6. The Chinese market is new. And the slide they were talking about was the resurgence of a company called God, I should know this because I can pronounce it.
Xiaomi or something.
Yeah, Xiaomi, and they create these bottom dollar garbage phones that look like Android phones. They make Android phones that look like iPhones. They're complete and absolute copycats. They're basically doing what Samsung did 4 years ago with the first Galaxies. They're creating non-Apple phones that look like Apple phones, and I've seen a couple of them. I deal with Chinese people every day, and I've seen a bunch of them. They look great. They look like an iPhone, kind of feel like an iPhone until you actually play with one. They ain't no iPhones. They're junk, but they're like $100. And so when you have stock, when you have the predictors say, oh, you didn't sell as many iPhones this quarter. Yeah, because you sold them all last quarter. The Chinese are poor. There might be a burgeoning economy, but they don't have money to spend. They don't buy iPhones like Dixie cups. They just bought their iPhones, and the Xiaomi companies have come in to sort of to shepherd in the second generation of that. That's not a long-term strategy, and the people that do predictive stocks in these emerging markets like India and China, they have no business of predicting this. And the fact that they predict that Apple will sell, what is it, 47.9 million, but Apple only sells 46.2, it's absurd reason to drop the stock and just to wipe out people's financials. It's a ridiculous system we have over there. But you know what? That's okay. That's why I don't play the stock market. But I think the whole thing's bupkis, and I think it's terrible.
Well, it's part of it makes sense, but it's like you're betting on what's going to happen in the next few days, but you're reacting to it immediately.
But
and then it's like you get like a double reaction. It's the reaction of what you think is going to happen, and then you're also reacting to what is actually happening, and that causes a lot of volatility, more so than it used to be, where you just react to what happened today.
See, try explaining that to Grandma. The fact is, is that every single year Apple gets punished for not meeting expectations based on the idea that next year there's going to be a trend downward. But they have done nothing for the last 7 years but beat expectations every single quarter. In some cases morbidly so. So for them to use the excuse every year, well, the world's richest company didn't meet our random expectations, and therefore we're going to punish people for this, is absurd. It is an industry full of people who take pride in knowing that they can make a giant company, Apple, suffer for doing nothing more than selling more. If Apple stopped selling, if iPhone sales actually went down, if revenue actually went down, if they actually lost money, I'd see it. But it's so arbitrary. It's just so random. I would love to see how they come up with these predictions. I think everybody would, and I think there should be. I think there should be transparency because the stock market is regulated. I would love to see how they can justify taking $15 billion away from Americans for punishing a company that actually made profit, that actually did better than they did the year before. It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. So
well, luckily you need an 8-year degree and some hedge fund skills to know what the heck they're talking about. So luckily no one has that.
Piles of coke, because that's the only thing that can explain. Yes, Wolf on Wall Street. There you go.
I think we've deviated from the technology part of this, and we're a little bit into the financials of it. But let's if nothing else with Windows 10 or Apple, we should move on to the next topic.
Well, I did want to ask Nathan. I mean, and it kind of leads into the next topic, which is Apple Music, because again we're still talking about Apple, and the thing is, they started this. They started the no one started. I mean, they created their own streaming
They slashed, chopped, and diced Beats
They've
music.
smushed
Yes.
this music service into iTunes.
Right,
Yep.
exactly. And the thing is, iTunes was the leader. Always went by the premise, well, you own the music. You went, you bought, and spent 99 cents or whatever it was, and you have the music. And now that we see another transition coming here. Everything, the future is now streaming, and not ownership. And so Apple obviously didn't want to be left behind, and so they've created the Apple Music. And what was it? The news item that was yesterday? It was 11 million.
Oh, yeah. They boasted like a subscription number of 11 million, but at
Right.
the same time, the majority of those are in fact trials.
Right.
I would say all of them are because nobody's actually paid for it yet because they're still
Yeah.
on the 3-month trial subscription. I don't know where you want to start on Apple Music, but I think we should start back last November to 2014
Hmm.
when Apple did their first big push into the music business. Now this is prior to their very confusing iTunes Radio
Mhm.
upgrade that was horrible. I don't know if anybody used that, but
That was awful. And I actually used it like just 2 weeks ago. I was out working in the yard and I want to listen to music. I'm like, okay, Apple, show me what you got. Nothing but ads, 1 minute music clips, and just complete crap.
I don't know if you were using iTunes Radio was discontinued about 2 months ago.
There
But
was something on my iPhone that was Apple something,
yeah,
and it wasn't Apple Music.
they who knows? What Apple did is Apple imposed Apple Music. See, this is Apple's entering their 2000s Microsoft phase where they're no longer asking you, they're giving you. And I bring up September last year when my favorite band, U2, teamed up with Apple to give everyone their new album.
Mhm.
Hey, you want this new U2 album? No. Well, you got it anyway. And so they didn't ask people. And I want to be clear. Full disclosure, the album was fantastic. As a U2 fan, I loved it. But I can see how people don't like the idea of being forced. I mean, I don't like Taylor Swift too much, or definitely Justin Bieber. I wouldn't like Baby 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 to show up on my iPhone. No thanks.
Yeah, and of course, when even though you don't have an Apple Watch, the Apple Watch app is on your iPhone, and you can't
Yes,
delete it. You can't delete
exactly.
it. Yeah.
Apple is using their leverage of power in a monopolistic way to push their music services. If Steve Jobs was alive, I do not think he would have allowed this. I think he was very strict on disassembling these different products together in ways that somehow worked together. They were sort of components. They weren't just like this machine. And I think people forget that Apple saved the music industry. They truly did. And what they did is they convinced the world to pay for music that they could be bootlegging for free. They convinced everyone. Everyone thought they were crazy. They did it. iTunes to this day remains the world's biggest music store. They put everybody else out of it. They've even put dents in Amazon. Amazon doesn't compare to them. So, like you said, Ben, the last few years have been sort of punctuated by these streaming services that have come in. But the thing about Spotify and Songza and radio and all this, they lack the library that Apple has. Apple has everybody. If they don't have somebody, it's pretty rare. And so what happened was they purchased a few years ago, they purchased Beats. And everybody thought, yeah, finally, we're going to get great headphones. No, Beats headphones are terrible. They're garbage. No, Apple didn't care about those overpriced POSs. They wanted the streaming service. And most importantly, they wanted the tie-in with Dr. Dre. Very important acquisition there. People don't understand how important this was. So now, and pretty soon they started splicing in elements of Beats Radio into iTunes. Now, iTunes has come under fire for years about being a piece of bloatware. I've defended it. I think it's, as a music management system, I still think it's the best. But I agree with the new critics that now Apple's trying to do too much with this one program. And I think the integration of Apple Music into iTunes has created confusion. I find the Apple Music interface to be horrendous. I think at best it's a clone of Spotify. At worst, it's just unusable. It's absolutely unusable. It's very difficult to navigate, very difficult to find, very difficult for playlists. It's filled with worthless social media integrations that nobody will ever use. And it's very clumsy. Just trying to turn off your automatic bill payment is very hard. Apple should be ashamed of themselves for doing just a lackluster interface. But here's the caveat: they have so much stuff. Once you get past the garbage, once you get past the interface, there's a lot to like about Apple Music. There's a lot of music there. There's a lot of discovery. There's a lot of things you can do. And I think we were building up to this news article that was it last night or today, that Dr. Dre, for the first time in 16 years, released his first album. And I know, shocking, it was on Apple Music. I know, go figure. He's not Taylor Swift. He's not going to make a big stink about it. So
I've heard about that new album. It's based on it's called Compton, based on the new movie. I forget the name of the movie.
Straight Outta Compton. Yeah.
Straight Outta Compton. Yeah, and he's giving all the proceeds to charity and all that kind of thing. And yeah, it's nice, but you say there's some kind of well, I guess there's really no surprise that it's an Apple exclusive.
Go figure. And this is the most significant gimme since, again, the U2 album last year, because U2 is the biggest band in the world. They make the most amount of money, and they could have easily sold millions and millions and millions of CD. Rumor has it Apple gave them $100 million for first rights to their album. And a lot of people don't talk about this, but the album, even though it's hard to quantify its success, there were some reports that the album was the most listened to album. And it was actually more listened to than the Taylor Swift album. And sure enough, that's probably because they gave it away for free. And you look at this sort of thing and you say, wow, they're giving it away for free. They're giving it away for free. That's how radio works. Radio just puts songs on the radio. And these new digital streamer services, they're nothing but just sort of interactive radios. Now, I'm on the fence as a conspiracy theorist, Craig, that the whole Taylor Swift faux pas where she was criticizing Apple was a publicity stunt.
Yeah.
I cannot. My brain, I would give up Popzara and move to Calcutta and worship cows if it came out that somehow Taylor Swift was able to convince a giant mega-trillion-dollar company like Apple to completely change their strategy in one day because of a tweet. It's just not possible.
What I had heard of that was like Apple was looking for a way out, and then that happened, and they're like, okay, we'll pick this up. Like they were going to do it, but they found some way to get some nice PR out of it as well.
If you've ever done anything about business, then you know that these things take months to put into contracts. That legal licensing, there is no way that they didn't have Taylor Swift's album ready to go in contractual form. And part of that probably came with the publicity that she would be, after seeing what happened with Songza, which, by the way, was, Spotify, that was probably the beginning of this. There was probably deals in place for her to promote Apple Music by disparaging Apple's biggest competitor, which was Spotify. So the first thing Taylor Swift did was remove all her music from Spotify. And then she disparaged Spotify. And then she disparaged Apple. And then she said, oh, Apple's great. And next thing you know, all her music's on Apple Music. That stuff just doesn't happen in a day. It takes months, if not years, to do. Taylor Swift's father is a music executive in promotions. The whole concept of Taylor Swift is music promotion via celebrity. That's why she That's why she promotes Diet Coke or Subway. Does Taylor Swift look like someone who eats Subway and drinks Diet Coke? I don't think so. So I think the whole thing was pre-programmed celebrity endorsement to promote Apple Music as an artist first medium. And by the way, the first time you turned on Apple Music, the very first day, the first thing you saw was Taylor Swift. So yeah, I think the whole thing was a scam to get artists comfortable in supporting Apple Music over Spotify. And congratulations, you did it. You're going to kill off a very good competitor because you're a giant mega-trillion-dollar company who can bully them around. Congratulations, Apple. Steve Jobs would be so proud of you.
So,
but the Compton album is pretty good, so I will say. So going back to, the music's pretty good.
Are you saying that there is no chance in hell that when I go get a Subway that I might not bump into Taylor Swift ordering one?
I don't think you'd know you'd bump. She's so skinny. You don't get skinny eating Subway. I'm sorry, Jared.
Yeah,
or he was fired. No, I'm sorry, you just don't do it. It's fatty fast food.
Yeah.
But that's it. I've met people who believe it. Celebrity endorsements work. If nothing else, when you have someone like Taylor Swift or Kim Kardashian or Justin Bieber, whoever is sort of a brand instead of more like they're known more for their brand than they are their actual product. And let me be fair, Taylor Swift's not the most untalented musicians. There's talent there.
Yeah.
But the fact is that she's a brand ambassador, and her whole persona is about selling product. If she tweeted, "Hey, listen to Computer America," your servers would crash.
Yeah.
And that'd be a horrible problem to have, because you couldn't pay to fix them right away.
Yeah.
But if you planned it in advance that she was going to tweet it, and you build the build up, and you could support the crush, you'd love it. And that's what she does.
Well,
Pre-programmed promotion.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Well, listen, we're at the top of the hour, and we're gonna take a break, and then we'll continue a little bit more on this. But also, I want to talk about Palmer Luckey. He's on the Time magazine cover. The Oculus Rift guy, and let's talk a little bit about movies too. I mean, Mission Impossible's out. I understand Fantastic Four reviews are coming in, and we'll talk about that. And also, let's talk a little bit about the GOP debate. And I understand there's a technological tie-in to that as well. All right? You're listening to the Computer America Show. Ben and I are talking to managing editor Nathan Evans from Popzara. We will continue on with him. Another News Tips Bulletin review coming up, and a social media winner, too. Don't go anywhere.
This is about a cool new way to be the first to hear about new, completely unannounced products or services. The Monday through Friday Newer Than News nationwide Bell Ringers Radio Hour starts August 31st. 4 times on each show, a team of 3 pros, well, 2 pros and me, take the time to tell you all about some new something. That happens over so many stations that more than 50 million people will be able to tune it in. And that same day, releases about that debut go out on 3 major news wires to reach traditional, online, and social media, plus full coverage on Slash Gear and some other goodies. Here's what we'd like to ask of you now. At the company you work for or the companies you work with, chances are that the top marketing people in top brass don't yet know about Bell Ringers. Please, just tell them to check out bellringersmedia.com. That's BELLRINGERSMEDIA.com. But hurry, September segments are booking now.
Broadcasting live, it's the only national radio talk show on computers to air every weeknight. Computer America, hosted by national columnist Craig Crossman. The first hour's behind us, but there's still more of tech news, tech talk, and your phone calls. We're being beamed nationwide at ComputerAmerica.com. You got computer problems? Bring them on. You're listening to Computer America. Computers run the world, and we run computers. Call us or send us an email to live@computeramerica.com.
Hello, and welcome into Hour 2 of the nation's longest-running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers. This is the Computer America Show, and I'm your host, Craig Crossman.
And I'm your co-host, Ben.
And we continue on with Nathan Evans. Nate is the managing editor for Popzara. And if you've not been to the website, certainly go there. Popzara.com is their website. Of course, you can go to ComputerAmerica.com. It's right there on our homepage, so the link is there as well. And it being Friday, we're sort of all over the road. We've been talking about Apple Music. We've been talking about Windows 10.
Apple computers, Apple peripherals, Apple smartphones. We're all over the road here.
Yeah, Windows 10. What Nate thought of it. We've been talking about El Capitan. So I guess, Nathan, are we pretty much finished with the Dr. Dre and his Compton release? I think. Is there anything else you want to say before we move on to the next topic? I wasn't sure if you had finished the subject. Yeah, Nathan, you're muted. You have to unmute yourself. Okay. Okay.
I don't know who mutes that. It's not me. Okay, it must be the ghosts in the machine.
Yeah.
No, it's actually no. I think people should. Anybody who is thinking that Dr. Dre is, look, we didn't forget about you, Dre. Quote quote quote. Listen to the album. It's pretty great. I think you'll like it and enjoy it. Lots of guest stars.
One thing that we didn't get your opinion on, though, about that whole thing before we move on, is of course the 11 million subscribers. Blah blah blah. How many of those do you believe are going to stick around?
Don't know. I think it'll all depend on the quality of service that they provide. Again, I want to point out that Apple's made it very tricky to discontinue your membership. Now, I'm not going to disparage them and say they did this on purpose, but I'm not going to not say that either.
Yeah.
I think Apple would be very happy. They get everyone on a 3-month drip for free, and then just sort of let nature take its course and let them have billable monthlies. When you look at the cost of the program, the subscription, it's right in line with Spotify. It's a better deal than Spotify. It's more music. You get more people to share. There's no disadvantages to it, and it runs on everything, and it's coming to Android and everything else. Look,
but
I pay. What's that?
I'm saying, but you, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you said that. Well, okay, go ahead and continue. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I may not like their tactics.
Well, how do
but,
they? How do they make it? You say it's very difficult to unsubscribe.
It's very difficult. It's if you actually sign up for the trial, there's no clear way. There's no clear way to go on iTunes and unsubscribe. You gotta hunt for it. I had to look up a FAQ online to find it.
You have to go into iTunes, you have to go under settings, you have to find the address buried within the terms of service, you have to mail them a shoe with your request to cancel written on the heel of it. Mail that in. 3 weeks later, they send a guy to your house. It's not an easy process.
It's not as transparent as it could be, but as far as the level of service, I think Apple would be very happy with just people forgetting about it and just saying, "Hey, look at this what is this $9 a month fee on my iTunes account?" I don't know, but I'm enjoying the music, and I see that they're already starting to integrate with T-Mobile and such like this, where the data the data you use with Apple Music won't count against your data on certain plans. The fact is this: I pay for Netflix. I share Netflix with a few of the other editors. We enjoy it. I don't get to keep anything, but I don't want to. I don't want to keep some of these crappy movies that I watch. In fact, frankly, I want to watch an episode of Doc Martin, or I want to watch South Park, or I want to watch a British film, and I'm done with it. I move on. I don't get to keep anything. I'm paying for service. That's fine. Music's a little different. And I could say that if you're really being nebbish about it, that if you really wanted to keep music, the cost of Apple Music for 1 month, you could buy one album a month, but you'd keep that album. But then every time you wanted to listen to that album, you'd have to bring out that album, hunt down that album, take it off. Apple Music, especially, I think it's going to get better, will allow you to sort of have access to thousands, if not a million albums, whenever you want, however you want. Whatever you want. That you can't compete with that just by buying, but when the buying's done, you're done. So, on one hand, I'd say I'd like to own music. On the other, it's unprecedented how much music you have access to legally. I want to say, for a small fee. So if they do well, they do well. I just happen to find some of their tactics a little nefarious, but this is business, and as the Japanese say, business is war. So.
But it good move on Apple though. They saw the writing on the wall, and they know that people nowadays, they don't want to own stuff. They don't care, especially the younger generation. They don't care about owning stuff. They want to pay that monthly subscription, and they want to have access to a lot of new content and just a lot of different content. And if it's easy to do for a cheap monthly fee, all the better.
I will say one thing though to cap this off is that the whole Apple Music thing has got me another iPod Touch. So
really?
Yeah, I'm now using the iPod Touch 6, which was announced specifically to sort of invoke Apple Music. That was their big tie-in. Now you say to yourself, how can you use a streaming service with a device with no cellular data? We can use it with Wi-Fi, and if you have Apple Music, you can actually download songs. This is a big thing. You can actually download the songs onto your device if you have the Apple Music service. So I want to be clear here. If you have Apple Music, this is another big selling point. You can download the songs and listen to them offline. Can't do that with a lot of streaming services. So I mean, Apple Music is, if I had to say it, if we're just talking features, is clearly the best streaming service out there. There's no competition. The interface sucks, but that'll get better. But for now, if you can stomach bad interface, and you want to listen to Dr. Dre or Phil Collins one moment, you can. It's all there. The only one you can't listen to is Prince, because Prince is Prince, and he's very stubborn about these things. But you know what? That's okay. He's Prince.
Hey, if the Beatles came around, Prince will come around.
Are the Beatles available on Apple Music? I don't know. They're on iTunes.
Yes, they are. I mean, that was when Steve Jobs was alive, and they made a huge deal about that too, because it was so long. It was so long you couldn't get the Beatles on stream on MP3. You had it was the album only, and finally they cut a deal with them to get it.
Yes, they. In fact, the first deal that was actually cut was a video game. It was the Beatles rock band. It was the first time their music was available digitally. It was the first time the music was available at that high quality. And eventually that led to Apple, because you had to. At the end of the day, Apple won. They were the music service. So if you're going to pick one, you're going to pick the Apple service.
Right.
And I think that was it. And but let me just say this: if you were a really big Beatles fan, you weren't waiting for Apple or somebody else to get Beatles on your thing. That was like a couple years ago, Craig, when they made a big deal about the J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter books were going to eventually be on digital for the first time.
Yep.
And I just laughed and I said to myself, yeah, first time legally. The bootleggers didn't wait.
Yeah.
Not 10 years.
But now they have it legally, So
Now they can do it legally.
okay.
So it is what it is. They
question.
eventually learn.
One question. So when you can download the music on Apple Music on your iPod or what have you, and you don't have to be online, and you have it, and you can play it as much as you want. But let's say you you end the subscription. Do you keep that music, or does it somehow magically go away next time you try
It goes away. It goes away when you connect. They very similar to Rhapsody and a few services a few years ago, where they allowed you to download tracks while you were subscribing. So it's no real. And to be honest with you, I really can't say that with certainty, because I do have an Apple Music trial subscription, and I still have another month or so on it until it ends. So I can't tell you. I have no plans at this point to continue it. But I do have a very good friend of mine who, if he's listening, hello Sam, that is interested in an Apple Music subscription for his birthday, and I want to spoil the surprise. He's actually a big listener to your show. That but not for me. He loves Ben. So, but
What can I say?
yeah, the show would be better if there was more Ben and less Nathan. But no, I mean you can share it with people. You can share it with up to 6. If you have the right subscription, you can share it with up to 6 people. And that's pretty good. I mean, if everybody chips in like $2 a month for all that music, that's like a Netflix thing. To me, it's a nice like adjacent service to the music you might buy normally. What an enormous resource just to listen to stuff. There's so much to discover, and you know what? There's so much crap that you won't have to waste any time buying music that's crappy. And I want to cap this off with one last thing about music. And I want to point to everyone, as much as I want everyone to go and listen legally to Dr. Dre's new album, Compton, I want to push you. I might be the only journalist in the entire world that's going to advocate for this album, but this is a computer angle, so it fits. I want people to go listen to Giorgio Moroder's new album.
All right.
It's called Deja Vu. Now, the reason this is so spectacular is because it's the best hardcore EDM techno album ever made by a 75-year-old man. Giorgio Moroder pretty much invented the techno track. Now, if any of you out there listen to Daft Punk, there was an album that came out, won Album of the Year at the Grammys, and one of the tracks was called Giorgio Moroder. And the whole song was just spoken track with a nice little track in the background playing. That led to this man's career being resurrected. You ever listen to let's segue into movies for a second. You ever listen to you ever see the movie Top Gun? That song "Take My Breath Away."
Sure.
Never-ending Story.
Yes.
Soundtrack to that. Giorgio Moroder. 30 years ago, he just came out with his first album in 30 years. He's 75 years old and he's doing house music.
What was he waiting for?
People thought he was dead. He's 75. Ben, if you ever want to see something funny, pull up the video. There's actually a song called 74 is the New 24. Yeah, right. This is made by a 75. What are you going to do at 75? I know what you got 40 more years, Craig.
Yeah.
But when you finally meet that age, are you going to be making hardcore techno music for kids and house dub and trance?
I'll probably be just doing this show.
That is amazing, though. That is amazing to me, and that should be supported. That this man who's so beloved in this industry, has had a resurrection because of just a little placement on one track 3 years ago by one of his fans. That is the power of music and the internet and communications. Wouldn't have happened without any of it. So I think that's pretty boss. I like that.
And thank you for bringing that to our attention, Tim. And
It's
pointing that out.
because 74 is the new 24. Remember that.
All right. Well, again, Nathan Evans.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
Sounds
see
nice.
Ben's listening. Ben's listening. I
Oh,
can
yeah.
it up.
Yep.
74, Ben. 74.
20. Oh yeah. House is always fun to listen to. It's nice to have on in the background, and for him to come out with a whole new album of it, I'll definitely be checking that out later.
It's a great album. I think you'd enjoy it.
Thanks for putting us onto it, and our listeners too, Nathan. All right. So let's shift gears again and pull with music and get back to video. The Oculus Rift is certainly. We were talking about it last night as well. We were talking but Palmer Luckey now is on the Time magazine cover. Okay.
Yes.
And evidently it's also become an internet meme. So tell us about this.
All right. Everybody out there listening will know Star Trek kid or Star Wars boy or Star Wars kid a few years ago. The poor chubby kid who recorded himself with a fake lightsaber, who became the inspiration for it's the video that spawned a million memes. And we see this so often. Now, if anybody can see what I'm looking at on the Computer America feed, the picture on the left is a picture of Palmer Luckey. That is an unretouched picture as it appeared on Time magazine. Wow. Somebody knew what was going to happen. Somebody knew. They put that poor kid's picture on this magazine. I thought it was a joke. I thought it was fake. I thought there's no way they would do this. But I've been on this very show. I want to restate this or restate my position. I have been on this show and said until they can overcome their image problem and not make using VR make you look like a flailing, mentally unbalanced person, it's never going to catch on. This is the founder of Oculus Rift. This is the poster boy for Oculus Rift and all of VR. Look at that picture, people. See what you've done. You've set things back 10 years, and the only thing we can do is mock it with hilarious memes. And that's what the internet's for. Hilarious memes. There are thousands of these things already. It couldn't happen fast enough.
Yeah, he's got with the ballerina dress. Boy.
It's hard to see. It's hard to see, but he's tiptoeing without shoes on, right?
Yeah.
There's a great one with him as the Karate Kid with the sweep the leg Johnny meme, and they degraded it with grain and everything. It's fantastic. It's amazing, and it's
someone raised the point that it might have been it might have been a doctored photo of him actually sitting down and holding two controllers, but then they took it out for whatever reason to put it on the Times cover, but it doesn't look natural.
Exactly. He looks like he's prancing through artificial tulips. His child. Look at the name of this article. The Childlike Wonder. This picture is going to turn away 1 million people from Oculus Rift because there's nothing cool about this. Appearances matter. Images matter. Images matter. This is terrible. This is horrible. This is hilarious. This is amazingly funny. I feel really sorry for well, I don't, because the kid has $2 billion. There we go. It's just begun. It's
kind of, like a space shuttle.
I don't know where he was going with this, but the fact that got past someone is surprising.
It's amazing. And did you see the one with him in Jurassic World where they showed him as a velociraptor with Chris Pratt? It's very funny.
No, I'm not seeing that one.
You will. Look at these things. It's only been 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
I enjoy that.
On the tight.
This is joy. If anybody who's only listening to this show, what you're seeing is pure innovation from the internet responding in the only way that one can to such silliness. Pure mockery.
Okay, so that's weird, and I think you're right. Oculus Rift and virtual reality definitely has a hurdle to overcome which is, of course, don't be nerdy. Don't be silly, goofy. Don't be a toy. Make this an actual peripheral that people are going to want to covet.
There was
And
yeah.
photos like this? Nah.
You want to be you want your picture taken like this. Now there is a lesson to learn. I want to quote the great Dr. Dre, journey with me into the mind of a maniac. I want to go back 10 years to when the original Nintendo Wii came out, and Nintendo pushed this commercial. If anybody doesn't remember this commercial, this is the single greatest video game commercial ever. Okay, you can make an argument some of the Metroid commercials are pretty cool, but no, it is the original Wii commercial. It showed two little Japanese guys in a little car zipping around the countryside, knocking on people's doors, and when they open the door, they bow and they say, "We would like to play." And the people they show are normal people, not models, normal people, not very attractive. Some are overweight, some are families. They go into complete neighborhoods where everyone looks bored, and suddenly families next door are playing together. They're doing hula hoops. They're having fun. They look ridiculous, but they're having fun, right? And that launched 100 million Wiis being sold. That started what you would call the Wii phenomenon. Because as goofy as you looked playing, you looked joyful. You looked fun. These people look like they're comatose.
Yeah.
These people look like they've been jabbed with a morphine drip. They don't look fun. They look like he looks like he'd just been in a coma. The Wii people look like they're having a great time.
Yeah.
I encourage you to go look it up. We would like to play commercial 2006. Best video game commercial ever. That's how you sell tech. This is how you destroy an industry before it even gets started. This is stupid. And Time, shame on you for putting this poor kid on this magazine. You knew what you were doing. Shame on you, meme generator.
Mm.
That's what you did.
Ah.
Shame on you. It is funny though. It is funny.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'm just looking at all the different things. I mean, you get images. You're seeing some of the really fun things. And again, if you're watching the show on our live video stream, Ben's been displaying some of the other images that have come up. All right, so let's. I think we've got time to do one more. What is this with the GOP debate? You want?
ooh.
Yes.
Okay, I like how you said one more, like this is going to be short.
Because all right.
No, for anybody who hasn't been living under a rock, yeah, there we go, cliche. The GOP hosted not one, but two debates
Yes.
on Fox News yesterday.
Mhm.
And I could go off all day about this,
Yeah.
but you're very lucky because I've already gone off half the day with someone else, so I'm kind of depleted. But here's what I got left in the tank. So Fox News had a debate sponsored by Facebook. There's the tech connection for anybody listening. And it turns out it was a gigantic success. It was the highest rated debate ever, primary debate ever, broke Fox News records, broke cable records. I think, what is it, 26 million, 30 million people watched the thing?
Yeah.
Now I can point to you why that happened. 2 words.
Yeah.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, exactly.
Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a showman. Now, I don't want to get too political because this is a family show. And regardless of your political affiliation, you don't have to be a self-professed Democrat to hate the Republicans, and you don't have to be a self-professed Republican to hate the Democrats. It helps, but you don't have to be. Now, the Republican debates, they had 2 tiers. They had, I think it was 7, I forget the terms they use, JV team or whatever. I'm not a sports guy. But basically, the has-beens were in the first half, and then the top tier were in the top, decided by polls. I find that system repulsive. I don't, because you can jack polls. But whatever, the first debate, I think everybody and their brother decided, out of all the people running, it was Carly Fiorano, who, of course, has a tech connection. I forget, was she the ex-CEO of, was it eBay?
Yeah,
I forget.
Yeah.
And I don't think she has a chance in hell of becoming the nominee, but she eviscerated everyone else on that stage, and she's definitely earned her place in the top tier. She's very good. Now, as far as the other thing, it was basically Donald Trump versus everyone else. And Donald Trump didn't disappoint. He showed up and he made a fool of himself, and he knew it, and he got lots of ratings for Fox. Now, as far as him being a serious candidate, no, absolutely not. But the debate was hugely watched by people, and regardless of who you thought won or did not win, and I won't share my opinion because it's political here, but I would say that the serious candidates did a very good job of making making their point that they're very serious.
Mhm.
And Donald Trump made a very good point that he's Donald Trump and he's just here to have fun at everyone else's expense. And I don't mean to be political by that. He said as such. He didn't rule out that he might not run as a third-party candidate.
Right.
And so it's going to be fun to watch. There's 10 more Republican debates planned between now and next year.
No.
The Democrats have not planned any debates.
Well, I think it's like it was that. I don't know if you remember the Howard Stern movie.
Private Parts?
Yeah, Private Parts. Yeah, exactly. I mean, when they were doing it, they said to him, they said, why do you listen to Howard Stern? He said, I hate him. I really hate the guy. But they said, well, so why do you listen? He said, well, because I want to hear what he says he's going to say next.
Mhm.
And I think that's happening with Donald Trump. They like watch because they want to hear what he's going to say next. I think that's
Wow, there's no topic less polarizing than politics and Donald Trump. I'm glad we're on this.
What happened?
I don't know. We just had a caller, and I promised that I'd get the topic through. And sorry it took a little bit. I was trying to get information out, but they sounded a little spotty on information. But I was actually wondering, Nate, because you've been using Windows 10, does Windows 10 still have a blue screen of death?
Don't know. I imagine it does. I think if it does, it's probably consigned to having one of these new cutesy screens. Like when you go to a Google product and there's a screen of death, it says "Aw, snap." Looks like something went wrong. So, I wouldn't be surprised if it crashed and it went jinkies. But no, I haven't been able to crash Windows 10 yet. That's not to say I haven't tried, but I'm pretty certain that we have not got a Windows program that is uncrashable.
Well, let me say this: does Windows 7 have a blue screen of death?
Yes.
Yes, lots of.
I
blue
have
screens
seen
of
that
death.
many times.
Lots of blue screens, several. So.
Well, I'm saying since Windows 10 is sort of built upon the foundation of Windows 7.
It's just that I think Windows 8 didn't.
Yeah.
I've
Or at least-
crashed. Well, it regardless of what color the screen is, a crash is a crash.
Yeah.
And I think at some point we'll find out. It's every system crashes, no matter what you have. And yes, all you Mac people, your system crashes too. Trust me.
Yeah.
It just does it. It just freezes when it crashes.
Yeah.
But it's a computer. Everything crashes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, caller, I have to apologize for this one. Not a lot of good not a lot of
Great.
useful information to pinpoint exactly what your problem was. He said that the screen turned blue. He said something about the text, or the white text saying something about CD something something something, and he did not have an error code. He did not have any kind of what caused the system crash or what he was doing. And so I think for that one, I mentioned that he should go to our email or go to techeye.org to get help. But as of this moment, caller, he said he was a long-time listener and listens every night. So thank you for that. But at the same time, we're going to need a little bit more information.
Yeah.
I would also advise calling Microsoft's tech support. I mean, at some level, you've probably paid for your Windows at some level, and maybe they can help you. Although I'm not going to promise that because Microsoft's tech support has been increasingly bad. So we shall see.
Okay.
As long as it's not outsourced, we're okay.
It is. That's the problem.
Perfect.
Yep.
Okay. So we were talking about the GOP debate, and we had like only about 2 or 3 minutes, and then
about the whole debate thing, the Republican debate, and it's so weird. It's like, yeah, that's going on, and I have my own little world where I go to Twitch.tv, I go to Facebook, I go to Twitter, and like I kind of mod my own thing. On every one of those platforms, even on Twitch, again, a website dedicated for people to stream video games and let other people watch video games. They were actively streaming the debate,
Yes.
and all the gamers were sitting in a room together talking about it.
Yes, it was remarkable, and I think part of that, and this is going to tread into political territory, and I hope people don't get lost or, sort of affiliate and sort of click up. But the fact of the matter is that the Republican Party right now, when it comes to debating their next nominee, is very much the polar opposite of the Democrat. Now, people take it for granted that Hillary Clinton is going to be the Democratic nominee. I don't. I've been following this stuff most of my life. But the problem is the Democratic Party seems to have secured Hillary as the nominee. There's very few people running in the field, even this early, and those candidates that are considered opposition, which are Bernie Sanders and Mark O'Malley, have about as much chance of winning the nomination as my cat. It's not going to happen. They are just not electable. And so it's sort of there's this enormous gulf in conversation about the Democratic nominee. It's Hillary Clinton or it's not. I want to remind everybody that the election isn't for another, 15 months? It's a long time.
Yep.
And we already have, 17, 20 people running for a Republican nominee? So just by the laws of vacuums, the conversation is going to be about the Republican nominee. Now, the other part is as clownish as a lot of the Republicans are, and especially the king clown himself, the Donald, that it's interesting. Donald is interesting. He's been interesting for 40 years. He says outrageous stuff. Does anybody here remember the movie that came out with Robin Williams a few years ago called Man of the Year, where he played an outlandish, buffoonish disc jockey who ran for president and won? I mean, that's sort of the dream. That's sort of the weirdness of it. There was a show, we talked about the show Black Mirror. There was an episode where a cartoon character was elected to as a representative. Donald Trump, he reminds me a little bit of Chris Christie a couple of years ago, before Chris Christie was an actual nominee. He said strange stuff that you agreed with. Even if you don't like him or agree with everything, I mean, when you listen to politicians talk, it's like talking to Japanese mannequins. It's like talking to Siri. You can't understand anything they say because it has to go through that BS processor where everything gets grated into cerebral cheese, and you can't understand a word they're saying because it's so disingenuous. If you ask there's a very famous saying, and they said, Senator or Governor, I forget who it was. They said, I'll just say Senator. Senator, what position do you take? And the senator says, well, 50% of the people are for it, and 50% of the people are against it, and I'm with the people. You're on all sides of the situation. Heads I win, tails you lose. And when Donald Trump says something, there's no filter. And that's exciting to a lot of people.
All right, we're gonna we'll take a little break and we'll finish up, and maybe even cut a couple of movies in too. All right, we're listening to the Computer America Show. We got our social media winner of the week coming up. We will be right back. Don't go anywhere.
I need a favor. You may not have anything to do with launching new products or new services at the company you work for or the companies you work with. So just in case the people there who are in charge of that aren't listening to Computer America tonight, please tell them about Bell Ringers. It starts August 31st as an hour-long Monday through Friday nationwide radio show on so many stations that more than 50 million people will be able to tune it in. 4 times each hour, a team of 3 takes the time to fully describe and explain something that's never been announced before, making it newer than news. And that same day, they send releases over 3 wires to traditional online and social media. Full coverage on Slash Gear and more. Please, just ask those marketing guys to take a look at bellringersmedia.com. That's BELLRINGERSMEDIA.com. bellringersmedia.com. But hurry, September segments are booking now. Thanks.
Hi, this is Craig Crossman, host of the Computer America Show. You have important meetings to schedule. Your company's getting ready for its IPO, and you're in charge of the PTA fundraiser this month. So how do you coordinate everyone to be available at the same time? Are you still using emails, phone calls, even text messages to schedule meetings with a group of people? How's that working out for you? Not so great, huh? It's a fact that every day, millions of people suffer from scheduling headaches. Well, with Doodle, scheduling meetings with a group of people is quick and easy. With Doodle, you can easily propose available times to each member. Each one checks off the times that they are available, and then you simply pick the time that works best for the group, all in an easy-to-read display that integrates with your existing calendar. Nothing could be more simple. Give Doodle a try for free, and like millions of Doodle users, you'll truly see how easy it is to find the perfect date and time for all your meetings. That's www.doodle.com.
Can't get enough of me, huh? Marty Winston with a News Tips Bulletin Review for Computer America, this time the Ryobi electric pressure washer. The snow itself is gone, but it's always a slovenly guest, leaving behind a lot to clean up. So we got in a Ryobi RY14122 electric pressure washer last spring. The power plug head is oversized to house safety measures, yet still handy enough to fit the unit's cord wrap posts, one of which pivots so it's easy to remove the entire length of cord at once. The screen-filtered water hose connector up front has a spinning sleeve thing that helps hose handling happen easily. There's a turbo nozzle and pattern heads that exchange easily to adjust the spray pattern, and the nozzle handle has an angled trigger grip for easy one-handed use, plus a barrel grip for even more precise aiming. A top cap accepts liquid soap for wash then rinse use. We like the convenience of an electric unit and its 1700 psi. That's 1.2 gallons per minute pace is plenty for what we want to do. If you need more, Ryobi does offer beefier gasoline-powered models. Bottom line, we found the Ryobi RY14122 electric pressure washer powerful enough to clear winter crud off the driveway, but gentle enough to also get some off the car. Marty Winston, News Tips Bulletin for Computer America.
Welcome back. 30
Yeah.
minutes past.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome back. Welcome back to the Computer America Show. 33 minutes past the hour. We are here with Nate Evans. He's going to finish out the hour with us, and on this great Friday. And I think, though, because it is the second half of the show, 33 minutes past the hour, this is the time. We've been amping it, ramping it, and just hyping it all week long, where we give away our a prize from our good friends over at Logitech, and their MX Anywhere 2 mouse, which has gotten such high praise. We just had Matt Smith from Digital Trends on to kind of validate from his point of view. They gave it their Editor's Choice Award. It's getting accolades from all over the people who talk about this kind of crap, and it's a very nice mouse, and we have one to give away tonight.
Yeah, it's valued at $80, and we're going to give it away right now. Again, the Logitech MX Anywhere 2 wireless mouse goes to Christopher Corwin. Hey, Chris, congratulations. Christopher Corwin is this week's winner. He wins the Logitech mouse, the MX Anywhere 2 wireless mouse. It's got it has a dark field technology, lets you work on glass table surfaces. You can pair it up to 3 computers and switch between them with the touch of a button, thanks to its easy switch technology. It's really beautiful, and again, valid at $80. Congratulations to you, Chris, for being this week's social media winner again. Again, go to computeramerica.com. Enter in our social media. It's really very simple. Just go to Facebook and like our Facebook page. Go to our YouTube channel, and and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Each time you do it, you only have to do it once, and then each one is an entry. So that was 2, 3, 4, and you'll get that many more entries. You'll get 4 entries a week for each one that you. And again, just go to computeramerica.com. All the charms are on the right-hand portion of the screen, and you can just see all the different ones and subscribe to each one, and that's how you get a chance, or a really great chance to win. The more social media you attend or subscribe to, the more chances you have to win. Okay, so again, talking to Nathan Evans, and we'll kind of wrap this up here. Are we going to get into movies? Or are we going to, at this point, Nate? What would you like to talk about?
Anything to get us off the topic of Donald Trump would be fine.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'm tired of talking about fake plastic artificial things. Let's talk about movies.
Yes. Okay. Mission Impossible evidently is becoming a real massive hit, and but you haven't seen it yet?
No, it bugs me, because I was a huge advocate of the last one, the Ghost Protocol.
Yes.
What's interesting about this movie, and there are 2 stories about this movie. If those who remember 10 years ago and those who don't. 10 years ago, for some oddball reason, Hollywood decided to be anti-Tom Cruise. And there was a lot of talk about his career was done. He was a lunatic. He was a Scientologist, blah, blah, blah. It mostly surrounded his strange interviews he would give with people like I think it was NBC News Today, or I forget the creatures' names, the ones who interviewed him, because they're not worth remembering. But I remember he gave comments about psychotherapy and pharmaceutical drugs, and he was against them because of his religion. So therefore, evidently in Hollywood, and let me put it this way, the bar is very, very low for this sort of thing. Apparently that's considered faux pas, and so they sort of threw him out. And when Mission Impossible 3 came out in 2006, it only made a couple $100 million, and therefore he was dropped from Paramount. They used that as justification to terminate his contract. Up until that point, Tom Cruise had been their #1 moneymaker. In fact, I think I would caution he's probably the most profitable movie star of all time. I know there's a list that sort of aggregates this sort of stuff, but it's widely inaccurate because it always lists Samuel Jackson as #1. Samuel Jackson is in every movie ever made. It doesn't count. But I think actually the top of the list is voice actor Frank Welker, who did the voice of Megatron. So, but anyway. Mission Impossible 4 came out in December 2011, directed by Brad Bird of Pixar fame, his first live-action movie. It was a huge, gigantic hit, based mostly because of the attraction of seeing Tom Cruise scale the, and I can't pronounce the name of the building, but the world's tallest building in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, the gloves. He had those gloves that supposedly were...
And it was mostly real.
Yeah.
And people didn't believe it at first, but then they did, and they saw it. And then he started releasing a string of very profitable low-key movies, Jack Reacher, which of course was directed by Christopher McQuarrie, who actually directed this new Mission Impossible, and he to smaller sci-fi movies like Oblivion, and then there's the big one, Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I like the Edge of Tomorrow.
Yes, nobody really saw the movie in the theater when it came out, but it's since gone on to become a gigantic modern cult classic, and I think that's it. I think we have reached Tom Cruise critical mass, where people have just given up hating him, gone back to liking him, and I think this is shown. And I think if you actually look at the box office analysis of Mission Impossible 5, or is it 5? Yes, 5, Rogue Nation, a lot of the conversation has to do with Tom Cruise's visibility as a star. And the fact is that we don't live in the age of movie stars anymore. We don't. Going back to the Taylor Swift thing for a minute, we live in the age of movie promoters. It's not like the classic era of the 50s and 60s or even the 80s when you had Arnold Schwarzenegger and all the big action stars. There really aren't any more movie stars. There's no one who can reliably sell a movie. And when you look back in the last 10 years, even after his public breakup, Tom Cruise has remained the most consistent movie star out there. He doesn't make flops. He chooses his scripts well. He chooses good projects, and his movies are still somewhat events. And he remains profitable. He's a smart guy, and he's teamed with this Christopher McQuarrie for lots of things. Christopher McQuarrie not only wrote and directed he's the guy who was very famously wrote the Usual Suspects.
Oh yeah, sure.
And then he directed one movie called Way of the Gun, which is pretty good, but no one remembers it. And then he somehow became best friends with Tom Cruise, and he wrote and directed Jack Reacher. He wrote Edge of Tomorrow. And then he was promoted to writing and directing full duty for this Mission Impossible. And by all accounts, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation is one of the highest rated movies of the year. If you care about such things as Rotten Tomatoes, I think it's #2 after Mad Max is the highest rated blockbuster of the summer, or if not the year, if not the last few years. It's been a disappointing summer for a lot of the big blockbusters. Then I mean you have some big grossers like Jurassic World, and you have Jurassic World, you have Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
They're not great movies by any stretch. They're entertaining, but you don't have a lot of crowd pleasers like that. And it seems like Mission Impossible was a good choice. And what's funny about it, the movie was actually supposed to come out in December, and they just only recently moved it into the doldrums of August.
Yeah.
And it looks like a good choice. I mean, to be fair though, guys, Star Wars comes out in December, so
that is going to trounce the box office.
Yeah.
They hope so. They really do. There's unprecedented love for the return of Star Wars. We shall see. But for now, for last weekend and possibly this weekend, Mission Impossible will either reign supreme or continue to make bank. It's already profitable.
Now, what about the Star? You mentioned Age of Ultron, but what about The actor. I'm blocking his name. Iron Man.
Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah, Robert Downey.
Robert Downey Jr. Yes. Most of the films that he makes bomb. The only ones that make any money are the ones that he does in the Marvel Universe. Do you remember The Judge?
Yeah, I was going to say The Judge was, well, that was a real stinker, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, last year. Do you remember the movie he made with Jamie Foxx about the violinist?
No, I didn't know that one. No.
Exactly. Yeah, but do you remember Edge of Tomorrow?
Yes, you do. Yeah.
And Jack Reacher?
Well, I do. Yep.
Yeah. The thing is, Robert Downey Jr., which, by the way, it came out, I think, yesterday, that he's still the highest paid actor in Hollywood. It's based exclusively on his Marvel contract. One film. So,
One franchise. Yeah.
Well, I think I think his payday comes from just his playing that character. And to be honest with you, he's fantastic at it. He's the best thing in those movies.
Yeah.
I mean, he is. If he's in that movie, he's the best thing in that movie every time. And there was an actor that, again, Hollywood had thrown away, discarded, thrown away, said he's no longer viable. And he had faith, and
that's not too uncommon. I mean, there was Johnny Depp and Jack Sparrow and all that kind of stuff.
Oh no, it was different for Robert Downey. Robert Downey was considered the it man in the late '80s. He was supposed to be the next big star. He was in big films like Chaplin and so many others. And then his drug usage got to the point where he was horrible. He would show up addicted to cocaine, got fired from movie roles, was combative, got arrested. I mean, he couldn't get a job for 10 years. His most high-profile movie before Iron Man was in a badly rated sequel to what's that movie called? The one with Harrison Ford, the one where he escaped. The Fugitive.
Oh.
It was the sequel with Wesley Snipes. I mean, he could barely get roles in Hollywood.
Oh.
He had to start
come back, kid.
Yeah, he'd come back, and then he became a megastar. And the movies that he's in as a megastar, he's fantastic. He's very likable.
I don't remember him in that movie. I know Harrison Ford was in the first Fugitive.
Yeah, nobody remembers the second one. It was terrible. The only one who came back was Tommy Lee Jones was in it.
And Wesley Snipes, right? Yeah,
and Wesley Snipes, yeah. It was, I forget what it was called, but it wasn't very good.
Yeah.
But Robert Downey Jr. had a really good scene when he got out of handcuffs. I remember that. But going back to this, but yeah, we'll see. We shall see how well Rogue Nation ends up doing. But if it does anywhere as good as the last one, then yeah, everyone's going to be happy.
Right. Okay, so movies that are coming up. Fantastic Four. Now, obviously, this is a remake. I saw. We all remember the original one, and it had Captain America in it, and it had and they decided to do a reboot on it. And
yes, they one of the lowest rated movies of the year, actually, by all accounts.
Yeah. Well, so now this is Marvel. It's like you would think Marvel can do no wrong at this point, but I guess evidently they can't. Although again, the previews look pretty darn good. So I don't.
Well, it's not really a Marvel movie as you might think. It's owned by, I think it's Fox Studio, and Fox. This is a holdover deal that Fox and Marvel made years and years and years ago when Marvel was going bankrupt before their resurrection. And they were sort of they were having a fire sale on their character licenses, and Fox gobbled up a bunch of film series like X-Men and Fantastic Four and I think Daredevil, and they've made these films before, and they made a nice profit, but I think anybody who saw the second one realizes how atrocious they were. They were really bad movies in any way, like terrible, terrible films. And so what happened is that they decided before their contract runs out, because if they don't remake the movie, Craig, they lose the rights. Okay. So they rushed out these movies the same way Sony rushed out the Amazing Spider-Man films, and it looked promising. The cast seemed pretty promising. The director was known for a very low-budget, very well-made movie called Chronicle.
Oh yeah, I like Chronicle, by the way.
Oh yes. Yeah, Chronicle was great.
Yeah, very good.
But then word started coming out that the production was troubled, and then here's something to note about how these movies work. If you don't hear a lot about them, there's usually reasons why, and they were very secretive about this movie. And the first thing they saw is that they kind of dumped it in August. How do you dump a superhero movie in August? It's not a usually good sign. And so it's the idea that this would start a franchise reboot. I have not seen the film, and I'm not going to criticize the movie based on other people's opinions. But from what I have read about it and what I've seen about it, I don't hold a lot of hopes for this being any good. It could be.
Mhm.
It could be. But critics whose opinions I trust says it's crap. And I don't usually use Rotten Tomatoes as a measuring stick because I think it's inaccurate. But again, when there's a lot of smoke, there's usually a little fire, and the movie currently has a 9% at Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
It is at this point is the lowest rated superhero movie of the modern era, and it'll probably make some money at the box office, but some people are counting it as to be the first official flop of the superhero age.
Yeah. Question: Was the Human Torch always black? Like, you know,
No.
like they just did that to cram some PC or some diversity in there, right?
Actually, yes and no. First of all, in the last movies, he was played by Chris Evans, who, of course, is now plays Captain America. Now, in comic books, I'm going to get some heat for this, but screw it, I'll say it anyway. Comic books have been sort of used as a sort of a measuring stick of progressive and ideas of diversity and affirmative action. And it's very trendy in comic books to turn white characters black and males into females and straights into gays. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. They're comic books. And for a long time, those things were verboten. You wouldn't see black characters. You wouldn't see gay characters or female characters prominently. If they did, they were always exploited. So on one hand, I applaud them. But like a lot of people, I share the hesitation to turn existing characters into black, female, and gay simply because they weren't made that way. I would much rather see them create new characters. I would rather see them create a new character, a new Spider-Man character, like I think they did with Miles, where they turned him into a gay black teenager. No, I have no real problem with that. Turning Thor into a woman, turning certain characters gay, it makes a certain group happy, but I think they might win the battle, but they lose the war. It doesn't make a good case these characters are original. Now, like Samuel Jackson, that's a little different. The original Nick Fury character was white. In fact, if you're that old and you have that bad taste in movies, you'll remember there was a horrible movie starring David Hasselhoff about 20 years ago called Nick Fury. Yeah, that's how bad it could be. I'd much rather have Samuel Jackson. And they actually changed the character to look like Samuel Jackson because of that. As far as what's that? I was going to say.
Go ahead.
Oh, the Human Torch. The reason he's black in this movie is because Michael P. Jordan, first of all, he's a great actor. We talked about him last time on the show on that movie Creed. He was in Chronicle as one of the main characters, and so he's a holdover from the director. And I think there was some rejiggering in the story. I think in the new movie, the father is black, and Sue Storm, the daughter, is adopted white or something. But irrelevant. I mean, as much as they sort of rejigger characters' racial background stories, whatever. I mean, I don't care if the characters are purple, as long as they're well played. So
makes sense. Yeah. Like Hasselhoff, tickled something in my brain. And speaking of movies, did you see Kung Fury?
Are you talking about the YouTube video?
Yes.
Yes.
It was Kickstarter released on YouTube.
But more importantly than that, I saw the David Hasselhoff video of True Survivor.
The music video, yeah.
Which was genuinely outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
The video was great. We actually had one of the guys review the Kung Fury thing, and then the director actually said he liked the review, so props for that. But the David Hasselhoff video is better than the movie. And it's fantastic.
I love the movie, and I really like David Hasselhoff and his music video. They were both really good.
It is just that's the hard part, to realize that not only David Hasselhoff in a music video about this movie about dinosaurs, Nazis, giant, machine gun toting, whatever, but it's actually pretty good. And the song's actually pretty good. And people forget that he's a really good singer, and he was a gigantic, huge, just phenomenally big celebrity in Germany, and only Germany. So, and the director of Kung Fury is Swedish, which is just skipping away from Germany. So it makes sense to me that he put him in the video. So I think it's great. I love it. Good. David Hasselhoff, you've come a long way since your drunken cheeseburger eating days. I remember that.
Yeah, but that's another movie. It's absolutely free. If you have half an hour to kill, it's an outstanding movie. And if you have 4 minutes to kill, go watch. The name of it was the Lone Survivor. What was it?
True Survivor.
True Survivor. True Survivor. Yeah,
It's a good
go
song.
check that
Great.
as well.
It's on my iPod
Yeah.
actually. So
Yeah.
it's a good song.
It's very good. And then to continue on with the movie, one more movie that I think you want to talk about was Shaun the Sheep.
Yes, a movie that will bomb. It will not make any money. I think predictions have already come at being atrocious. It's gotten no publicity, no tie-ins, no nothing. It's not going to do well. It doesn't change the fact that it's going to be a wonderful experience. I'm actually in the middle of editing the review for the site. It's got Editor's Choice coming out. The movie came out months and months, if not a year ago, in England and the rest of the world. We're only now getting it dumped into August. Aardman Studios, the creator of Wallace and Gromit, the creator of just so many things. I can't even name them right now. But just
Chicken Run was one of my favorites.
yes, Chicken Run, Pirates, and the occasional CG film that I think they did Author Christmas. They did one with mice who had jobs. But no, but Aardman Studios also they did the commercials for the mattresses with sheep. Go figure. But Shaun the Sheep was a character from Wallace and Gromit at one point, and then he eventually had a children's show. It's known for being completely silent, so the storytelling is all visual, and their animation is almost entirely claymation. It's CG assisted, but it's almost entirely claymation. Not to be confused with Leica Studios, the ones who did Paranorman and the Box Trolls, who are also wonderful, by the way. There's just something really cool about stop motion animation. But Aardman Studios are the masters of this stuff. They're masters. And a couple years ago, they were purchased by DreamWorks, and that's where you saw a lot of the big releases like Chicken Run and Wallace and Gromit. The movies are all box office duds in America for some strange reason. So they kind of got dropped. And then their studio got burned up in a fire, and they lost everything. So they almost went away. But the fans chimed in, they came back, and they've made some really great movies. If you haven't seen it, go rent Pirates.
All right.
The Pirates animated film. Very good movie, and Aardman's a wonderful animation studio. I wish this movie would do better, but it's got no promotion, so it's not going to.
There's another movie coming up. Ridley Scott, director of the original movie Prometheus, which was really the prequel to Aliens, the whole Alien saga. I understand they're coming. Did you see Prometheus, by the way? Out of curiosity.
Oh, I did. I was actually, for the most part, I'm actually a pretty big fan.
Yeah. Well, so am I. Prometheus 2 is coming out in December.
What?
Yep.
No.
Prometheus 2, yes, coming out in December.
No, I don't think so. Really?
Yeah, I'm looking at
the re-Prometheusing.
Actually, here the title for me, genre science fiction. I'm looking at it here on the website here. That it's going to be coming out in December of this year.
December?
Yeah. Ridley Scott's.
Oh, wait!
No,
Before we even talk about Prometheus,
I think it begins filming, but not.
Yeah.
I think it begins because Ridley Scott's making. Yeah, he's making a movie right now called The Martian, and I think he's making something after that.
That's with Matt Damon. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, guys. Sorry to do this, but got like 2 minutes left, and we're just leaving this giant thing in the middle of the room without talking about it. Deadpool.
Yes.
First trailer.
Okay, Deadpool. I actually had this conversation yesterday. I watched the trailer. I watched the trailers. For anybody who doesn't know, there were 2 trailers released. There was one clean trailer and one not so clean trailer.
They called it the red and the green.
For anybody who doesn't know, this is one of those movies that should never have happened, but magically it has, and it's by the sheer will of the fans. Ryan Reynolds plays a character that he originally played badly in a really bad movie called X-Men Origins Wolverine, where they took this character of Deadpool and completely just crapped all over it, and now he's given a second chance. For anybody who didn't realize, Ryan Reynolds has been in more comic book movies than anybody. The problem is they've all bombed, and so I think he's been in 100 of them.
Green Lantern, yeah, exactly.
Green Lantern, Wolverine, Blade, they've all been terrible. Now he's the actual star of a hardcore R-rated movie that is tailor-made for him. In fact, the comic book character himself references that he sounds like Ryan Reynolds. When I first saw the trailer, Ben, I thought, what is Jim Carrey doing in a Deadpool movie? Because
exactly.
Doesn't he sound like Jim Carrey in the trailer? Doesn't he sound like Ace Ventura?
So.
But he's very funny.
He has that cadence about him.
Yes, he's got natural timing. He's a natural comedian. And I really wish he'd do more stuff, because I'm tired of him doing these horror movies and these serious movies. He's a funny guy, and he needs to remember that. I hope the movie's good. I hope it's not based on the gimmick of him doing it, because sometimes, a lot of times when we see these gimmick movies that are based purely on gimmicks, like Snakes on a Plane or Big Ass Spider or Sharknado, they're not usually pretty good. And so if the story's good and the action's good and it's inspired, it'll be a good movie. And if it's not, well, we'll have another case why nerds shouldn't be in control of anything. So I'll give it the benefit of the doubt.
I feel the same.
I'll give it the benefit of the doubt.
Same.
But I wasn't.
Ryan Reynolds.
What's
Ryan Reynolds was in that movie that's out now, where it was like he took over from a dead guy. It was from Ben King, and he takes over his body.
Not Surrogate.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's not looking good for his box office, because he's just been in so many bombs.
Right.
So
we're pretty much out of time, Nathan. What's happening with Popzara? What's coming up now?
Working on great things, and I recommend everybody take a look, because I have a very important article coming out that I'm trying to spam on your radio show. Yay! but no, it's going well. It's going well, and I'm looking forward to sharing all the good stuff with you next time I'm on.
Excellent. Now, over the weekend, just have a great time. When we come back on Monday, we're going to have a company called Real Sonar on the first hour. They're going to be talking about their iBobber. Get this. This is a sonar when fishing with a little buoy, and you can actually you can see the fish underneath the water on your iPhone. And it's in color.
60 seconds.
It's an amazing device, and we're going to have the company's product liaison, the marketing director, on from that. And then in hour 2, we're going to do computer and technology news brought to you by Slimware Utilities. They are the official optimization software of Computer America. Hey, everybody, listen, thank you all for being here. Have a great weekend, and catch a movie. And Ben and I will see you here, same bat time, same bat channel. So, until tomorrow, Monday night, this is Craig Crossman, hoping that your hard disk never becomes floppy. We'll see you Monday night. Take care.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night, Nathan.
Night.
10 seconds.
Good night, Trump.
Good night, Paul.
Good night, Trump's hair.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
Okay, and again, thanks to all of you who are watching our live video stream. Have a great weekend. And again, thanks, Nathan, for being here. It's always a pleasure having you here.
You're welcome.
Fun, and we'll see you all on Monday night with Real Sonar and Computer News. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.